Well, today, new search warrants were released in the 24-year mystery of what happened to Asha Degree. Asha was 9 years old when she disappeared in the year 2000. Last week, FBI and state agents joined Cleveland County deputies in searching properties owned by Roy Lee Dedman. The warrant's probable cause statement says the deputies believe Asha was the victim of a homicide and that someone hid her body after her death. The warrants say the Dedmans were subject because of a familial DNA that was found in a hair strand on Asha's undershirt. An attorney for the Dedman has denied any involvement in her disappearance. Well, joining me now to dig deeper into this is Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes. And Khalif, here, the search warrants, they collected the DNA from the Dedman house here. That included some of the family members on this. That tells us something here because there's a lot more to go on now.
This whole investigation tells us a lot. I mean, think about it. You're talking about 24 plus years of investigation. And every time you get new information, you're trying to figure out, well, how does that connect? You're ruling out if it's something that is really related to this case. But looking at the affidavits, you're talking about 100 plus pages of information that was released today. Some of this stuff was new, but some of this stuff was older things that they had just released when folks were looking for them. But this is throughout the course of their investigation, talking about the Dedmans. They said that it wasn't their type of DNA, but it was someone, maybe one of their daughter's DNA. So that's why they connected it to the most recent searches. But then you're also talking about the person that was named in there. The Underhill individual was someone that was connected to them because they did some type of care for him. And so there's a lot of information if you're looking at walking backwards through an investigation. Any type of time I'm dealing with a case like this, I'm trying to watch the investigators investigation and figure out, well, how are they piecing it together? Because it helps me when I create my defense. Most of the time, they're going back step by step from the date of the incident and trying to work their way backwards. This case, you got 24 years of working backwards, and all of this information is pointing to DNA that was most recently collected.
You know, and the attorney, we saw that on Friday, come out and try to say that it was going to be somebody. We learned a little bit more about the search warrants, that it possibly was that caretaker, at least leading to that, but also that there was a family member that had a hair strand that was connected to that.
Yeah,
as well.
And they think that it was the daughter of one of the Dedmans, but it also, that Underhill individual that's connected, that they're saying, listen, we need to figure out and rule out as many people as we can. So DNA evidence will attempt to do that. It wasn't just that, it was the trash bags. Her backpack was found in double back trash bags. And so all of this information that was found throughout the years points to their conclusion so far that they believe this was a homicide and that her body was moved in some capacity. Now trying to figure out how, who, and what did that in that capacity is what they're going to be doing more as they progress with further and further investigation.
It is. The investigation is part of putting together that big jigsaw puzzle that we're doing right now. And part of that also, the Asha's family has passed a polygraph test. How do those play out in court?
Well, I can say this. In a former profession or attempted profession, I was required to take a polygraph test. And I can say for the reasons that I remember that it was hard, that I was sweating, that it felt like my heart was beating out of my chest, that even though I was telling the truth, it felt like, well, man, am I lying? That process is not admissible at all. There can be no mention of that during the court process. It can't be admitted. If anyone is ever charged, anybody that passed a polygraph, took a polygraph, offered to take a polygraph in the state of North Carolina, the Supreme Court has held that they are not scientifically reliable. So you may see in the TV dramas, oh, I took a polygraph and I passed it, but none of that in a actual courtroom in our state is admissible at all. You can't even consent to having it being allowed. You can't mention the fact. Now, if you confess at some point during or after, that information kind of finds its way in there, but it depends on how it comes in and in what process. But the actual polygraph itself, not at all, not admissible in our state.
Very interesting. Thank you for breaking a lot of this down, and certainly a lot more to going forward with this case for Asha Degree in the investigation. Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes, thanks.